Reddit, what's a genuinely hurtful comment you can't forget? I was in elementary school and a bunch of kids, maybe 20, were playing tag at recess. The girl who said races by me and I'm running away and yelling and laughing along with everyone else. She stops, looks directly at me, and says I'm not chasing you, and runs off. It was the first time anyone went out of their way to single me out and make me feel like shit. Girls who seduce their own fathers go to hell. Double quote. Told to me when I tried to tell my grandmother, his mother, about what was happening to me. I was 5. It was a while before I told anyone else. Moments after everyone found out that my brother had lost his battle to cancer, my mom looked me in the eyes and asked me, why couldn't it have been you instead? Double quote. I've replayed that moment in my head every day for the past 8 years. You're my backup friend. Double quote. Edit. Thanks everyone for the replies and anecdotes. Just remember, you are loved. Close bracket. Not a verbal comment, but here goes. In elementary school I was a really shy kid and I was especially afraid of singing. Well, our teacher tells me I must sing or I'll fail. When I start singing she covers her ears and puts her head on the desk. That just broke me and I've never sang in front of anyone again. My ex, who I just recently broke up with, told me that I should get back with my other ex and have another child. Hopefully the same thing happens. This is in reference to us having our first child die in my arms. Girl. Do you want to go out with me? Any? Yes. Girl. April Fools. Her and her friends all laugh at me. When I was kid my parents couldn't afford to buy me new shoes. So I always wore hand-me-downs from my cousins or shoes from the thrift store. I remember one day they took me to an outlet store to buy my first pair of sneakers that were brand new. I was so happy and I couldn't wait to wear them to school. That Monday I wore them proudly and one of the first people to notice was this guy Miguel. He loved bullying me, especially about me being poor. The first thing he said to me was, "Nice new old shoes. I had a pair of those last year." Double quote. It wasn't the meanest thing he ever said to me, but it hurt a lot. The excitement and pride I felt for sporting my first pair of new sneakers went away and spent the rest of the day trying not to cry. I used to work in a call center. A couple years ago my mom had a really bad hernia and was in the hospital for surgery very suddenly. 90% of her stomach, part of her intestines, and part of her pancreas were inside her chest cavity and her lung had partially collapsed to make room for all the other organs in there. I had rushed 4 hours to the hospital to be there when she got out of surgery. A couple days later I was back at work. Still really upset at my mom having been in the hospital. A man called in having an issue with one of his sports channels and got very upset and told me, "You can't even help me out with my sports. I sure hope your parents never need you to take care of them." Double quote. In the most cathartic moment I ever experienced at that job I told him exactly what had happened to my mother just days prior. I told him that he was incredibly rude and that one channel being out on his TV did not give him the right to treat me the way he was treating me. Then I told him his ticket was being escalated to the office for review in the morning and hung up. Then I went to the bathroom and cried for a good 20 minutes. I am similar in age to a cousin of mine. My aunt used us to compare every little detail of our lives to each other. I was the undesirable one and my cousin was the intelligent one. I'll never forget the day she made us both stand next to each other. She was going to compare our heights but instead threw so many insults at me that I cried for hours in the bathroom. Whilst insulting me, she is there talking about how much better my cousin is and my mum even agreed with her. That hurt a lot. Edit. I wrote this around 2:0 AM because I was overthinking and couldn't sleep. I love you all and thank you for taking the time to respond back to me. I tried too hard to please my parents as a kid. When I was about 25 there was a family conversation that ended up covering how I didn't make much money. I was a newspaper reporter. When someone made reference to my master's degree my mother said in a disgusted voice, "What a waste. Nothing ever hurt me more." And ever since I have not cared what anyone else thinks of me. I've always loved singing. Karaoke. Musical theater. Alone in the house. It's all pretty great. Once I was in a play where I had to sing a particularly difficult song and I was straining from the effort of practicing it again and again. The director of the play then says in front of the whole room, "You're a great singer, Chisela. But boy do you look ugly when you sing." I don't think I've sung in front of a crowd since. Open bracket. Edit. You guys are the best. I've been smiling all day. Close bracket. When I was in 6th grade I was in a group of about 10 girls and they all went back and forth telling me everything they hated about me. And they'd exaggeratedly imitate some of the weird things I do. I'm autistic. Until I ran away crying. Another time I was in the break room and my co-worker just looked at me and told me, "Your glasses look bad on you, they make you look ugly." She had thin light blonde hair that she always pulled back really tight and a large forehead, so I pointed it out in return. She wore her hair down after that. I am a totally confident dude and extremely happy with my appearance aside from one thing. I think I have a small mouth. I have never told anyone about that insecurity and it's never been even hinted at by others. Anyway, cut a long story short. I was asking a patron to leave a pub I was running and he proceeded to scream, "Fuck you. FCK you and your little mouth." Shit cut deep, man. "Just go live with dad because no one here cares about you or wants you around," said to me by my little brother during a very messy divorce. We are past it now, but man, that hurt. My grandmother called me an anorexic gay. I am most definitely neither, after my sister showed her a picture of me flexing my biceps. My grandma is not a fan of women working out. I rarely get offended by anything, but boy was I upset. My high school makes the entire 11th grade go on a leadership camp before they start grade 12. During this camp we're separated from our normal friendship groups and pretty much forced to socialize and complete activities with people you normally don't hang out with. So I'm socializing with other people, which included one of the hot girls from the popular group, Laura. One exercise we had to do was climb a high ropes course with a partner. I asked if I could do it by myself, so the adult in charge let me. I'm scaling this thing pretty easily and a few other guys from the popular group are cheering me on, yelling, "Go death proofer. You're a tank, son." I also noticed Laura is watching me and impressed. Something that felt good. I finish and we move on to the next exercise, which is another 2-person course. The adult asks who wants to go first. I'm still feeling pretty confident, so I jump up and say, "Yep, I'll go." I needed a partner, so he asks one of the girls from the Asian group if they'd like to go with me. The one he asked looks at me and goes, "EWW. No." Laura was standing right in front of me and laughed. Any confidence I accumulated was gone and I felt like shit. My abusive ex would always say things like, "No one will ever truly love you. I mean, look at you." He said did some pretty f-ked up things. But this always stayed with me. I've moved on. Happily married now. But there are still times I get ready for work, look in the mirror, and hear those words. I immediately have to look away. I was once told by a coach that I was overqualified to be an idiot. Kinda funny now. But it wasn't then. Besides, I wasn't even being an idiot. I think he just wanted to spring that joke. My nickname in elementary school was African Booty Scratcher for being the darkest in 4th grade, and no, not because I scratched my booty. The most hurtful thing is that my school was like 90% African Americans. Shame how we treat each other. I used to be a restaurant manager. A customer booked a birthday party. She was really awkward, but I did everything she asked for. She ordered sandwiched but decided on the night she had 10 gluten intolerant guests. I sorted it for no extra charge. I brought her wine and chocolate out of my own pocket. I went the extra mile to make sure she had a good party. Halfway through the night I heard her calling me fat nat, and that fat bitch, that upset me. In high school I didn't really have many friends. Well, by the end I had a small group. Anyways, it was the Friday before Easter break and I was super excited about the upcoming week off. I was going to stay up late and watch TV to my heart's content. So I was on the school bus just waiting for my stop. I used to sit with a bunch of kids who were all friends. They would include me in their conversations but never made any attempt to include me in anything beyond that. They got off 1 or 2 stops before me, and as they're gathering up their stuff to get off, one of the kids turns to me and says, "Since I know you're not going to leave your house during vacation, I'll just wish you a happy Easter now." All his friends laughed themselves silly as they filed off, and I could only stand there knowing he was 100% correct. Needless to say, cast a pall over my vacation. When I posted a rant on our rants and a guy said, "At least I know how to spell," I learned the difference between a and our in elementary school. So I go back, fix the problem I overlooked, and said thanks for pointing that out. Trying to play it cool. Then 1 hour later, like 3 guys joined the hate train, saying I am probably some dumbass kid that will live on a farm my whole life. So I go back, delete the post, and never went to our ants again. You're easily forgotten. It was said to me by my best friend after I was the only one in my class not invited to a pool party. I guess she thought that was a better alternative to my classmates not liking me. Once in my house, I had my closest friends over and we were playing video games as per usual. Then one of the group readers decides we should order pizza, but to his house, which is a 5-minute walk away. I was last to walk out of the room because I was tidying up after everyone. My friend turns to me and says, "You can't come. I don't want you in my house." Edit. Thanks for all the love and empathy. I know I wasn't the one in the wrong and he was the villain. Kind of glad this happened, as that group aren't liked very much by everyone in my area and school, and I got to meet people who actually are real friends. Also group leaders, not readers, lol. In primary school I was in the infant class. So I was about 4/5 years old. As any child at that age does. All they want is a friend or friends to play with, and when you have some, you think you're doing pretty well. Unfortunately for me, the teacher had us doing a song about friendship, and there were some dance moves that ended in a point gesture towards someone who you deemed to be your friend. I pointed at an old friend of mine. She shook her head and pointed at someone else. No one else pointed at me. Only I did. Might not seem that bad now, but as a little 4/5-year-old, I was crushed. Open bracket. On mobile. Sorry for formatting W. An ex-girlfriend of mine cheated on me and left me. I had to see her on a regular basis. She had gotten 3 of our mutual friends to harass me via text message, and I had declined to respond. The next time she saw me, she told me that I was a pathetic human being who would never amount to anything. A useless waste of space who can't do anything worthwhile. Doesn't have a single creative bone in his body. That no one likes. And would go nowhere in life. Double quote. That hit me hard. It still hurts. However, that also turned me around some. It's 1/2 years later, and I'm known by a lot of my friends for making delicious liquors. I am a blacksmithing teaching assistant on the weekend. My metal work is creative and unique. I'm cooking barbecue that wins the work competitions. And I have a house of my own now. She no longer has anything to say, even if she wanted to. Damn. Some of the things in this thread are harsher than I knew words could ever be. This is a small one, but it's always stuck with me. I was on the softball team in high school and missed a fly ball as an outfielder. The next inning, the last one, game was tied. I was up to bat and one of my teammates said, "Well, this soap's up to bat. Maybe if we're lucky she can do something right." I struck out. I'm adopted, and periodically throughout my childhood I would hear the words, "I will never have the daughter I've always wanted," when I did something my mother didn't approve of. They would both remind me often that I had been specially chosen by them. So this knowledge made me boggle even more. My mother was unhappy with me because I didn't like church, didn't want to sing in the choir, and didn't like piano lessons. Nothing like that good old Christian love and acceptance of all people. It was my mother who taught me religion was ridiculous through her hypocritical behavior my entire life. You probably weren't even really raped. Double quote. A recent ex-GF after she broke up with me. And plastered her Facebook with details of my past in order to make me look like a villain. I told her about the time a woman I dated took advantage of me in my sleep. And she twisted that story around. Me and my sister got into a heated debate about beating your kids, and I brought up the higher suicide rate. Knowing I have a history of depression and self-harm. She looks me right in the eyes and says, well, at least then we'd stop getting calls from the school about you. Double quote. This will get buried, but maybe it will feel good to finally say it. I was 7 or 8 and dad says to me, "You're ugly." So I start crying. You're even uglier when you cry. I fucking hate him for saying that. I know I'm ugly, but geez. I was a kid. Specifically a Reddit comment. Oh. It's you. The most hated guy on this sub. You should really change your flair. I had made 2 comments in one day on a sub I used to post on a lot that got heavily downvoted. And suddenly he hated me. But hey. Some subs just turn cancerous over time.